Welcome to the Haunted Show, where we bring you powerful conversations, insights, and exciting site investigations that reveal the paranormal world in a way you've never seen before. Prepare to have your ears
Okay, we are live, folks, and welcome back to another episode of Haunted Road Trip Show, where you get paranormal history that is dying to be heard. Welcome, darlings. Thank you for coming. And this week, you guys, we have a woman that I met about a year ago. And I don't think I can say enough kick-ass good things about her. I mean, who could really not like somebody with the word sunshine in their name? I mean, I think it's just impossible. I have here with us Miss Sara Sunshine Garrison this week. And she is not only a spiritual growth coach, her mastery is in helping women over 50 who are experiencing that empty nest syndrome to identify and to activate their spiritual gifts, activate or get rid of their limiting beliefs, and create a strategic plan for living for their purpose and moving forward. She's got a plethora of certifications. She's worked with everybody, y'all, from big to small to tall to wide to broad to everything. Okay. And she is a certified basic DNA theta healer, human design reader, and powerful intuitive. She also loves her animals, paddleboarding, and hiking. I mean, who doesn't like, of course your name is Sunshine. Of course, right, Sara?
It definitely embodies my personality for sure.
Yes, I am, and I am totally stoked to be able to talk to you about this podcast. And podcast has all been a long time in the making on there. And for folks out there, nobody really knows, but we met originally in what we like to call an entrepreneurial support group.
That's a good way to call it, definitely.
It definitely is. And it's called Meet Cool People, and that's definitely what happens in that group. And that's how I met Sara. And flocks of a feather stick together. What can I say on that? Sara, how you doing?
I am doing pretty good. I'm excited. I love to talk about ghost stories and all the fun things. So
yes, we're going to talk a lot about ghost stories because we love the paranormal history that is going to be dying to be heard on that. So you obviously you're an intuitive. And I don't think I've ever spoken to one intuitive who's been like, no, I didn't grow up. I didn't have any experiences. Like everybody has some cool stuff from childhood. A lot of people know my backyard was a cemetery. Like I was surrounded by cemeteries in the first house that I lived in growing up.
I don't know if I would have been able to handle that one, man. I don't know how you did it.
I didn't really have a choice. I mean, you're a kid. What are you going to do? Run away?
Yeah.
Well, I think I tried, but I didn't get any further than the bus stop down the road.
That's crazy. That's crazy. The house that I grew up in was the original farmhouse built in the 20s for the area. So it had quite the history. And I found out after I grew up and moved out that there were things that didn't make sense to me as a kid that now I'm like, oh my gosh, why wouldn't somebody just tell me that so that I wouldn't be so freaked out as a kid?
Okay, you cannot just leave us hanging.
So
you just broad strokes, like a good kick-ass childhood story. Spill the tea, girl.
Okay, so when I was a kid, so the house is an old farmhouse in the 40s.
Where are you at? Location, girl. We need
I'm in Oregon.
Okay,
I'm in Oregon.
Are we urban?
So
are we
outside? I grew up in a house that was just on the outskirts of Portland. When my parents bought the home, it was actually in the unincorporated county.
Okay.
And as I grew up, Portland annexed it in. So it's on at the time, country, outskirts of Portland. Eventually now it's a big suburban area. But it was all the homes around the house that I grew up on were all new homes. And mine was built in the 20s, like I said. In the 40s, they actually lifted it and put a basement in it. So it was 3 stories, and a basement, a main floor, and an attic. The basement was
All of a sudden I get creeped out by the attic, by the way. I'm just like, the attic, I don't know.
it was one of those attics, like, okay, so one of the bedrooms had a door that you thought was a closet, and you opened the door and it was the creepy stairs that went up to the attic. It was like that kind of attic. So yeah, it was I mean, I have fond memories of growing up there. So the basement at one point in time was, my mom ran a daycare. The basement where the daycare was at, the main floor was my sister's bedroom and my bedroom, and then the attic was my parents' bedroom. So like, yeah, it was they kind of used it that way. I can remember as a kid being in the basement. So nobody would be home and I'd be in the basement and I could hear people walking around upstairs and talking. I distinctly heard a man's voice upstairs talking, and I would go upstairs and there's nobody up there. And it was all the time. Like, anytime I was
when you first started hearing this? Like, just out of curiosity?
Say that again?
How old are you when you first started hearing this man's voice?
I young. I mean, under the age of 8. Yeah. Yeah. Very young. I remember asking my parents, I'm like the first time it happened, I'm like, did somebody come home? And, was there somebody here? And they're like, no, we were out the neighbor's house or whatever. And I'm like, well, somebody was in the house. And they're like, no, it's just an old house. It was just it settling in the foundation. That's what I always got, was the house is just settling. It's an old house. It's just settling. And I'm like, but I could never put together why I heard an old man's voice when I heard all the creaking and footsteps above me. I found out after they had sold the house and we'd moved out. We actually happened to one day go by and stopped in to the new owners to see all the updates they had done. And that's when my mom told me that the previous owners, just before they bought it, the old man died in the house.
Of course.
Why couldn't you tell me this as I was growing up so I wasn't so freaked out? Maybe she thought that would freak me out, but I think it would have calmed me a little bit, so at least I would have known what was going on. But yeah.
Did you ever hear the footsteps or anything like that any other time besides like when you were in the basement?
I only heard it when I was in the basement. I didn't hear it any other time. Yeah.
That's creepy.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I'm convinced like spirits know where we're at and they're like, I'm gonna mess with her just a little bit. I'm gonna mess with her. Like, I think that there's a lot of humor in spirit.
Well, something else that I found out, humor and spirit, so this house also had a big shop next to it. It was a detached garage. It was big. It had a room in the back. My dad used it as his man cave until I was 18. And then I moved into it as my apartment when I turned 18. And I was haunted when I was in there. Like, there was something that was constantly like at me constantly over and over and over again. Yet again, I found out that the shop was built from the wood of the old barn. And there was this spirit that kept reliving like its life in this space, and it didn't like anybody in the space.
Oh.
So I ended up making a deal with the spirit, because I'm like, listen, I could very easily send you away. I could send you off. So you have two options. Either you keep messing with me and I send you off, or you leave me alone and I don't care. You have free range for anybody that comes into my house. I'm like, as long as you don't harm them. But if you want to scare other people, fine. Just don't scare me anymore. I stopped having any issues and I completely forgot about it. And one night a friend came and spent the night with me, and the next morning she's like, Sarah, did you crawl in bed with me? And I'm like, why would I do something like that? That's weird. And she's like, I swear somebody put their hand on my leg in the middle of the night. And I was like, oh crap, I forgot to tell you. And so, yeah, this spirit was messing with her all night, like just freaking her out all night. If I would have said something, I could have stopped the process. But I completely, like, it had been like a couple of years since I had made that deal with the spirit, and I completely forgot about it. So,
is she still friends with you?
Yes, she is. She's still friends with me.
I would be reevaluating it at this point. That's all I'm going to say.
She kind of knew about my gifts, and so she kind of understood it a little bit, so she's a little pissed at me that I didn't say anything beforehand, but I forgot. I honest to
I
God
mean,
forgot
like
about it.
somebody getting in your bed at night, like that, like my number one rule is like feet under the sheets. Like, I'm not like, don't mess with me while I'm sleeping. Like, that is, I've had that happen a few times and it has literally scared the shit out of me. And I'm like, no, 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 no.
Like I said, it was
Did you
this
ever
weird.
like get the information about why the spirit was wanting to relive there? Like, were they just like, hey, I like this life and I want to hang around?
Um, v- yes, I had friends come in and we did some connections and stuff like that.
You did like a seance?
Well, I wouldn't call it a seance, but I have a lot of friends that, at least back then, I had a lot of friends that were very connected, and so we ended up connecting with the spirit. We found out that this, and I don't know why she was so mean, but it was a female, and she had been killed in the barn, and she would relive that moment of her death on a
Oh.
regular basis, but she didn't want to stop being in that space, and we never got that out of her, why she was so connected to that space. And she didn't want anybody in that space. She was like very adamant nobody can be in that space, and that's where her and I made this deal of like, listen, you end the suffering and you move on and leave me alone, or if you're not going to do that, just at least leave me alone, because I will force you to go away.
Yeah, because I would be more wondering like why, like why is the spirit so attached to their physical death? Like what happened around that was so jarring or so dramatic that they needed to review it and review it and review it.
Back then I wasn't, I guess back then it wasn't something that I was as concerned about. I think today I probably would have been like, well, why are you doing this? But back
Yeah.
then I was just like, leave me alone.
Right. I mean, most people, most clients and things that when we go to investigate are just like, just make it stop. Like we don't care. Just please make it stop.
Yeah. And that's the big thing. That back then, that's all I wanted. I just wanted it to stop. And there were two ways to make it stop. And I basically agreed with whichever way that person wanted it.
Wow.
So those are my ghost stories from the home that I grew up in.
Oh, you could have put that lady to some real use. I mean, you could have had her scaring the neighbors. You could have gone all kinds of ways with that. I mean, you could have had her like scaring your parents and
I
like
could have been messing with my sister and I didn't even think about it.
you're a good sister then. You're a good sister then. That is, I mean, and like, do you talk to your parents about it now? Like, hey, do you guys know that like we were living in a really active house?
I don't. I haven't talked to my parents. I did when my mom was like, "Oh yeah, there was a guy that died in this house." I said, "You couldn't have told me that when I was younger because, I heard him walking around upstairs." And she's like, "You did?" And I'm like, "Yeah, all those times you told me the house was settling, that was someone walking around upstairs." So, I did after the fact kind of tell her like, "I heard this guy." But
I like how your mom tried to double down on the excuse.
I think sometimes though, like I look back at raising my own son, I think what we try to do is we try to make it not scary for our kids,
Yeah.
so we try to like say, oh, it's no big deal. There's nothing really there, because, and children have an active imagination. So I don't even think my mom realized she did what she did, what she said, because for her, it was just about like making me not afraid of things. So, I did that with my son. I'm like, "Oh, it's okay. There's nothing really there." And then I'd be like, "Go away." I tell him to go away, trying to like ease my son and calm him down because it can be scary as a kid, knowing it because I grew up like that. I'm sure you know it too. You had your experiences.
Oh my God. I just couldn't figure out for the life of me why my parents kept buying, like haunted houses. Like, I was like, do you people not like check for this?
Well, you know what though? What I found, and this is so funny, my husband nowadays, like when we talk about getting a place or doing something, he's like, we want to make sure it's brand new and not on any sort of burial grounds of any sort, because I know you'll get haunted, Sarah. And I'm like, yes, but energetically, you go into the old homes and they just feel so warm and inviting and cozy. And like a new home feels empty. Like there's just no energy. There's no inviting energy in a new home. Whereas you go into an old home and it just feels good. Even when they're scary haunted, there's still that energy.
No, it is. And, honestly, I tell a lot of people when clients call me about like buying new houses or moving somewhere and they want to make sure that it's, you know, good vibrations or that, there hasn't been a mass murder or something, atrocious in the home. I say it doesn't matter whether it's new or it's a not new home. Someone or something at some point has died on that land.
Yeah.
How old is this earth? Someone or something has bound to die on your property.
Yep.
Now, how you interact with that, that's going to be up to you. But I always say, like, look, set your boundaries, create your own energy in that house, put your own touch and feels into it. And
Yep.
then of course I'm going to, help them see if the house is like, oof, no, I wouldn't move that. Check I always say check the public records about death certificates and people who have lived there and things like that. That will give you a lot more information than your real estate agent will. Like go
Yeah.
check. Yeah, like go check the county records. That's
Yeah.
going to tell you, yeah, real quick. My parents didn't bother to do that, but I can't blame them all for it because, as, you know, unaware mediums and intuitives, we're a bright light. We're like a lighthouse no matter where we go. And spirit's going to be attracted to that lighthouse. And we
Oh,
might be very unaware that we're the lighthouse.
yeah. I used to get followed all the time. I can remember I went to a massage one time and it was a gal that does intuitive work on top of massage. And
Right.
when I was there, she's like, you have like 5 people following you right now. Can I just clear them from you? And I was like, yeah, go for it. Like,
5.
I had 5 people, like 5 souls following me, like trying to get my attention. But that was before I was really aware and awake and like really truly understood that like I have to tell these people, leave me alone. Like this is not the time or space. But yeah, yeah.
Wow. Have you driven by that house that you used to live in? Is it still standing?
It's still there. The area of town is not now considered, it's not considered the best area of town anymore. It has no trespassing signs all over it. There's broken glass in the windows. The backyard is full of junk. It's just it feels like it's been a little bit not cared for, but I think it's not necessarily that. I think it's just the area of town. And it's like a corner property, so like people can see all sides of so it was sad when I drove by it. I was like, "Oh, it used to be in such a beautiful house," but
I wonder if the lady and the gentleman are still there.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. I wouldn't be surprised if they're still there. Unless somebody did it like I didn't do anything to get rid of either one of them. And so they would have had to bring somebody in to get rid of them because they were both very attached.
I do. I have a real soft space in my heart for spirits who might be like a little bit confused about things and need some help understanding maybe what has happened and what, like their choices. Because I don't really believe that a spirit is stuck. Like I just don't believe that. It To me, I've been shown more of it's a confusion and needing to tie up loose ends.
Definitely tying up loose ends. I've had
Yeah.
that multiple times. Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer that like God, Buddha, Jesus, spirit, whatever you call it, you know, doesn't need our exact help to cross spirits over. I think they got that covered. I think they've got a team for that. but I think that they can use us as mediums to help communicate with that spirit what has happened, and hey, here are some options for you, or to see if they're just like, nah, I just like your lady, like, nope, I'm staying.
Yep.
Okay,
Well,
well, if you're gonna stay, here's the rules.
I've had spirits come to me and not even know that they had died.
Yeah.
Like that there's a pure confusion of not understanding what had happened. Like they've been in this space and they can't understand why nobody's talking to them.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, because you're dead. And it's heartbreaking to have to like
Right.
break that news to them. To say, well, it's because you're not walking on this. I mean, I don't know how to explain that. The last one that came to me, I'm like, well, that's because you died. I had to like just flat out say it.
Oh.
It was tough. I mean, it broke her heart, and it was a friend of mine too. It was a bad situation, and yeah, she had no idea she had died, and it was very sad. So I had to be the person to break it to her, and it was like, didn't want to, but I did. So
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that. Like what I like to call a little bit of the shock and the awe, especially when people just quick or unexpected.
yeah.
Sometimes that happens.
Or if there's like chaos surrounding their death, there can be like, yeah.
Maybe like, what just happened here? And that's interesting. I like next time you roll by that house, like take some photos of it and send them to me. I'd be curious to see just if it looks like how I see it in my mind.
Yeah, I will definitely send you pictures of it because that'd be cool. It'll be a while before I get back out that area, but
I mean, we can still keep it up. I mean, either which way, you're badass intuitive as well from what I know. And so do you also, when you do your readings for your clients, does mediumship come through for you?
Yes, I do use it in cases. So I had one particular client, her father kept visiting her in her dreams. And so I was able to connect with the father and kind of find out what was going on and give some messages. So I use it depending on the situation. I will connect with a loved one
on there, because you especially seem to love to use your gifts for women. What I like to say are in the second novel series of their life.
Yeah.
Had our first novel. It was little, here, there, and everywhere. And now we're on our second novel series. And we're like, okay, what's up? What are we going to do now? What are we going to create?
Yeah. Well, I like to help. So I feel like my mission is to help people really understand what their soul's purpose is for being here at this time. And I feel that because my son is 19 and he's moved out, that's when like I feel like things start hitting us. Was it really my soul's purpose to raise a kid? Like, was that really what I was here for? Why, so you start like questioning yourself, especially as you get towards retirement too, women get towards retirement, we start to wonder, well, okay, what's next? Was that all I was here to do? Is there more to it? So that there's this confusion that starts happening. And so I love to help kind of guide them intuitively through that confusion and help them really understand maybe that was their purpose. And now their purpose is to be the most amazing grandmother in the whole world, or
Right.
maybe the next step is they need to start a business to help whatever it is that they're passionate about.
I do. I tell my clients all the time, you have multiple purposes. Like this whole, like, your destiny, that's a bunch of shit. Like we have multiple destinies, right? Like, I think my destiny was to wake up and do this interview today. So I did it, right? But I got multiple things I need to get done today. And I try to encourage people not to latch on to, oh my God, I have to find my purpose or my destiny or my calling, or some kind of punishment is going to rain fire and hell down upon me, or like something very negative, like, oh, I'll have to repeat this again. You might have to repeat this life again, but you will have the lessons of all the lessons that you've learned in this life to help you in the next one.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we have lessons to learn. like you said, like that's a big piece of being here is there's lessons to learn. And our soul's purpose, like you said, like where we're at in our life, there could be a meaning and a purpose behind that space, but then it's time for the next one. And now it's time for the next one.
Yeah.
And the whole coming back to do it over again is only like, it's because you're here to learn lessons in your life. You're here to understand whatever it is your soul needs to understand as you're going through life. And I don't know, I feel like you could choose to come back or not. Like it may be, you may not have learned lesson, but you don't really want to go back and try to figure it out again.
You know, I like to say there's lots of options. I tell my clients all the time, the way that mediums, you know, perceive things, the best way that I can tell it is like, look, we get to see through kind of like a little like peephole through the wall or through a door. We get to see what we're supposed to be shown. We don't get to see like what's on the periphery, what's above. We don't get the whole grand picture, and no medium or psychic does. And if they tell you that, they're a bunch of horse shit. Just to be straight up, that's bullshit, because nobody sees everything. And if you did, you wouldn't be in a physical incarnation body, because then you wouldn't have anything to learn. And what are you doing here then?
I think that even if you were given the vision of everything, you would never be able to understand it.
Exactly.
Just no, there's so many, like one of the gifts I have is future sight. And tell another story really quick.
Okay, go ahead. We love stories, girl. Come on.
When I was a kid, I had this dream.
Right.
And I was a big Star Trek fan, like the original Star Trek. Okay. And so I had this dream that I was on the you know, gosh, now I'm blanking, but I was
Voyager, right?
No, maybe it was it was the Enterprise, the Star Trek Enterprise. I was on the Enterprise and I was like standing like at the main console and I was typing in things and I was talking to somebody and all this stuff. And it was the coolest dream. I was 8, 9, 10. I don't even know. I was pretty young, but it stuck in my mind because it was just a really cool dream. And it was before we had like cell phones and iPads and all that cool stuff. Fast forward to, I was 18, 19 years old and I was working at, it's an age me, Circuit City.
Oh.
And I was talking with a customer and I was at a kiosk at Circuit City at this, like it had this big rounded, place for customer service. I was in customer service. So it's at one of the kiosks talking to the person. I was typing in things and there was this code going across the screen. Now in my dream, there was this weird code that I could interpret in my dream, but I couldn't. So I'm standing there and I'm typing all this stuff in and this code comes up on the screen. And then all of a sudden my dream starts happening. Like I'm standing in my dream and everything that happened as I was moving through was exactly what was in my dream. But I was standing at Circuit City working with a customer to help him through his stuff. So I always say that if you're given like a vision or if you're given a big picture, like we can only interpret things based on the knowledge we have in the moment. So at 8 years old, 9 years old, however old I was, I knew Star Trek.
Right.
And so in my vision, I was seeing it as Star Trek, but then, 10 years later, I'm actually, computers were a thing because they weren't a thing back then, and all this stuff was a thing. And I wouldn't have been able to understand that back then. So even if you're given, even if the medium is given the big picture, they're never going to be able to see it. They don't understand it. They can't interpret it. You can't interpret knowledge you don't know.
Yeah. So it's hard to, it's very, it can only be kind of broad stroke or vague. Even say 40 years ago, trying to tell people that we are all going to have a device that we can carry in our pockets or our purses that can connect us with anybody around the world instantly. It is a computer, it is a phone, and it is a camera, it is a video camera, it is news, it is everything in your world that you want. That would you go.
Oh yeah. I mean, even us on this video call, this was
this is Jetson stuff.
Oh, it was Jetsons, total Jetsons. Yeah. So
that's right.
So things that mediums see today, they're not going to understand if they can't, because there's just so much more knowledge and information out there than we can perceive.
Yeah, we don't have the experience nor the anything tangible to attach it to just yet.
Yep.
And that's what we do. So I have to ask you this question. Like,
Okay.
how bummed were you to find out that you were working at Circuit City versus the Enterprise deck?
I mean, it would have been cooler if I would have been in space in front of aliens, like non-human life forms that were talking to me. That would have been awesome. But at the same time, I really, would not, I don't know how I would have processed that either.
Oh my God, can you imagine having a dream that you were like bartending at the bar there? You know, the bar that they had on there with all the different beans,
Yes.
and only to find out you worked for a catering something like that.
And it was at a costume party.
Right. Oh, the things. And so it just goes like show everybody like, each medium can only between their own experiences and their reference points and their symbols. We do the absolute best that we possibly can with what we have. And that's what I tell my clients. Like, I'm going to do the absolute best that I possibly can with what I have to help you or whatever, whatever it may be. You want to play a fun game?
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to play a game called Book It or Book It. So are we going to book it and stay here? Or are we going to book it the hell out of here?
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Yes. Okay. This is one of my favorite sites on Instagram. Okay. Can you see my screen?
It's coming up. Okay.
Okay. So this is the subject. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So it's I don't know how to say this. Do you know French?
No.
Okay. Berg de Vista, France. And the bio says physically, I'm buried in snow. Mentally, I'm restoring these two magical gems in a quaint village in the south of France. Let the sun shine in. Listed for 80,000 euros. Two large period attached villa houses in the center of Berg de Vista within walking distance to all amenities. The houses dating back to the mid-19th century have new roofs, large gardens. They may also come with a plant of woodland with a rune-short walkway to the village. The first house has numerous period features, including marble fireplaces, magnificent staircase, and stained glass double windows. Stereo window is faced with Bordeaux stone with signs of quality residence, which I don't know what that means. The second house also retains numerous charming features. See, they don't say much about that second house, so I'm a little okay. So I think we have number 1, number 2 here. Let's see. Oh.
I mean, it'd be fun to like walk in and visit, but I would not want to be living there.
Woo! Look, it looks like somebody bit the banister.
Yeah. I mean, banister.
Is that what they mean by the garden view? I hope that's not the bathroom. Oh my God. Oh, the wallpaper is kind of cool looking. It looks like 2 double dragons.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Look at you.
I don't know what that is.
It's a dragon of some sort.
Okay. Well, okay. I mean, I'm liking the staircases. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to stay there. I'm going to say I'm probably going to have to book it out of there because,
yeah, no, I'm saying, like I said, I would love to just walk in and feel the energy and then leave, just to kind of like see what, and then
I want to see the wallpaper.
Yeah, I mean, like some places I'm looking at, I'm like, okay, that's not foreboding. That I can maybe, but then you go to other places, I'm like, no.
Okay.
No.
Okay, we got one more.
Okay.
We got one more. Okay. Are we booking it? Are we booking it? Okay. All right, here we go. Okay. 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 We've moved from France to Woodtakers, North Carolina. God, I hope I'm saying that right. Whitakers? Yeah.
I don't know.
All right. 69,999. You know that's a deal. That's right.
For the prices here in Oregon, yeah, that's a deal.
It said, well, Sarah, it says a stunner for sale by owner who is willing to entertain offers. Get on it. Home is for sale and located in Whitakers, North Carolina, within town limits. Close proximity to Cummins and Pfizer. I guess those are companies. Quiet tree-lined streets, beautiful features, lots of potential. The home will require some sweat equity. This home is in need of tender love and care. Home has not been lived in for 2 years. Price is negotiable as owners will consider all cash offers. 2,700 square feet, built in 1910. Thank you. I don't know. The outside, this looks like a little bit more in sweat equity, girl.
Yeah.
And I don't know about staying there.
I mean, I like the pillars. I've always been a big fan of those kind of pillars.
I know. But like the
That's
flaking
cool.
paint, is that lead? You know what they say
mean,
about red doors, right?
It's good luck, right?
I think so.
I think maybe, I don't know.
I like the stained glass. That's pretty. I like the archways. Ooh. Ooh. I would love to investigate the house paranormally. That I would do that for sure. I'm kind of wondering about this pipe in the middle of the. There's out of place, right?
I mean, there's nobody's lived in it for 2 years. That tells me that the energy is stagnant and stale.
Yes.
And that there's going to be hauntings in that house.
Yeah. Ooh. Interesting. Oh.
Yeah.
The staircase. Okay, the fireplace is cool. I don't know about all of that going on there, but I like that.
That looks creepy to me.
I like it because you can paint it or something and make it look pretty. I don't like this mess. I don't know what that is. That looks chaotic. I don't think, I like the little creepy window. That's like, so like creepy. Those kids can look in the middle of the night on the staircase and stare at you.
Well, at least it's a stained glass, so they can't actually look in.
They can't look in, but you can see their silhouette. And that's creepier.
That's creepy.
Yeah, I'd be afraid people are going to be watching me.
They must really like this room.
I would investigate the house. I ain't staying at that house.
Yeah, I couldn't stay there. No. Like I said, I find that when places have been empty for a long time, our human energy adds to and helps kind of make things a little bit calmer.
Oh yeah.
But not having anything in there for 2 years means that the energy is creepy energy.
Yeah, it is creepy in there. So folks, we're booking it. We are booking it out of both of these locations. Yeah, like
it'd be fun to like walk in and sense the energy a little. The second one, I'm not sure about walking in. The first one, I'm like, yeah, I kind of want to walk in and feel the energy. But the second one, I'm like, I could stand at a distance and sense that and be like, okay, we're good.
I wanted to go in and clean. I was like, this all needs like, we need some, some like dusting and some like polishing, like it needs a little bit more in sweat equity and TLC. But yeah, that's one of my favorite Instagram accounts to follow.
It's a great one.
I know it. So tell my listeners, Sarah, you have a free gift for them, right?
I do. So in my process of helping people activate their own spiritual or worldly gifts, I have a 4-step process. The first step is really understanding yourself and how to love yourself.
Right.
Because if you don't love you, then spirit, it makes it a little bit more difficult to connect with spirit. So I have a free self-love guide teaching you how to connect with yourself, how to love yourself, and how to appreciate you so that you can start moving into, because it's my belief that spirit, the Great Spirit, Creator, God, Jesus, Buddha, whatever you want to call that, is love. It's pure love energy. And if we understand what pure love energy is, it's easier to connect with it, and it's easier to get the messages and all of that stuff. So the gift that I have is a free self-love guide that anybody can download.
And where can they go to download this?
Oh, goodness. Sage, I believe the link is sage.com/self-love.
We'll put it in the notes for everybody, you guys. We'll make sure that you're able to find Sara and download her free gift for you guys so that you can get started on your own journey and start to experience your own intuition and start to trust yourself. That's really what it's about. When I tell my students, when you come into class, like, learning intuition is not, and mediumship is not about having control over the future or people or your life. It's really just about learning how to trust your body, trust your senses.
Yep.
Over
It's a
time.
big piece.
It really is. You have to learn how to trust yourself, and you'll learn. I always say you're going to go to Carnegie Hall and you're going to practice.
Yep, exactly.
Well, Sara, this has been like absolutely delightful. A whole lot of fun having you on here, and I hope we can have you back on soon.
Oh, definitely.
Tell
It was
more
so much
ghost
fun.
stories about your childhood home.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you for having me.
Yes.